Hello again. This week we're going to work on balance, lower body strength, and some lower body muscle control. You're going to need a few items to do this, and it was pretty experimental as far as us practicing it, but I think it turned out all right. Um, so yeah, let's get to it. So what you're going to need for these exercises are a chair, some weight, and an unstable surface to stand on. The unstable surface that I'm using is just a oddly shaped rock that I have. Actually, two different ones. And the chair, you're going to be moving it, so it's probably best to have a strong chair and one where you don't care that much about the bottom of it. All right. All right, to start, you're just going to balance on one leg. Try not to get bored. This is just to get used to it, get used to your balance where you're at this point in time. Switch legs when you feel like switching legs. You can try balancing on the toes, the heel, the sides of the foot, sinking into the ground, pushing up off the ground. Just so you have different things to figure out. Once you're comfortable with that, try swinging your leg around a little bit. Same thing. Try being on the toe, on the heel, pushing into the ground, pushing up off the ground, being on each side of the foot. And just like before, switch your legs when you feel like it. I'm kind of going through these quick because there's not much to them. They're just getting used to having one leg on the ground. So now we're going to start moving the chair. With this, you're going to be on one leg, and you want to try different ways to move the chair. Wrap your leg around it, lift it, push it, kick it. And just get used to it. Try the chair in front of you, on the sides, behind you. Sometimes you'll cross your leg in front of you. Just try and find new ways to move it and try and keep yourself balanced. And during it, when you feel like switching your legs, you switch your legs. It's not really a science to that. This is an exploration of how you can move your leg and how you can stay balanced. If you feel your upper body getting tense, try and relax it. You shouldn't really have to use your upper body for this, other than there's a little bit of a counterbalance. And while you're doing all this, you can also try changing the way that the weight's on your grounded foot. Try putting your weight again on the heel or on the toe, on either side of the foot, middle of the foot. Try sinking into the ground with that leg. Try pushing up off the ground with that leg. All those are going to change how the muscles in your body feel. That's really what you're trying to figure out. There's not really a right way or a wrong way for it. There are lots of different ways, and many of them you can get to be functional. And then when it's behind you, you of course can't see it. So that adds a little extra challenge to it. There you saw my leg can't go over the chair very easily because I do not practice kicks a lot. Alright, so now we're going to add some weight to it, which will tell you a bit better what muscles are being used and how you're using them. And again, you want to play with the grounded foot. I found sinking my weight into the ground with that foot makes some things easier, but not everything. You can also try turning your legs apart from each other, turning them towards each other. are lots of different motions you can try. And right now, this weight that's on there, I believe, is like a 25-pound bag of birdseed, I think. It's not that much. You find different ways to lift it. You can lift it by using your muscles, by turning your hips in different ways, by turning your legs again towards each other or away from each other. This really is just an exploration of how do you use your own muscles. The more ways you know, the better. At least that's my theory. So now I'm going to add a bit more weight. I put the 50-pound feed bag from previous exercise on there, plus the 25-pound birdseed bag, which of course makes it harder to move. And this is a metal chair on cement, which is also not so much fun. And you find that with the extra weight, you might have to move differently in order to not be knocked back or knocked over. You're trying to make sure that you're not using the chair for your balance. So once that becomes easy or boring, you go get your unstable surface. And this should really tell you what you're moving. I've taken the weight off of the chair to start to make it easier. And during this, I found that if I use my hips a lot, I can't stay balanced on the rock. You'll see later on, as I try and show the bad example of that. So you have to find other ways to move and generate power. Hips aren't the only way. They're a way, they're a good way, but they're not the only way. You still want to be able to kick with some power. And this is an even more unstable rock. And here I decided to show what would happen if you use a large hip motion, which was a little funny, not so great. And down I go. I figured people might want to see that in real time instead of sped up, because it's always funny to see people fall. So if you're going to show a bad example of something, make sure you don't overdo it. And then even on this, right, without your hip, you want to be able to have some power behind the kick. And right now, the chair is unweighted, so it's very easy. All right, so at this point, I asked the people who are on the call to adapt a little and give me other exercises that might build the same kind of understanding. And they came up with some good ones. This one is on one leg, try pushing when you're either leaning forward or leaning back, and see how that changes your body, or if it changes your body. Are you able to find that line to the other foot easier this way? So for this, I put all of the weight back on. If you enjoyed the earlier episode or exercises, I'd recommend trying the one on unbalanced rock, but slowly adding weight in and seeing if you're able to still generate power to really practice your balance and your understanding of how your body works. So it was pointed out that this engages similar muscles to controlling your roll or doing a slow back roll. I found that it engaged what I call my core, which is ab area, basically behind the abs, in front of the lower back, and a lot of the stabilizing muscles. But those could just be because of how I train, but those tend to engage a lot of the time for other things too. Like for most of the previous exercises here. And I'm trying not to push it forward, but just to push into it. And see how that changes things. The next suggestion was to go back to one of our earlier exercises, but this time actually swing the leg back and forth. And you'll find that there are different ways you can swing it. Like you can swing it just forward and back. You can swing off to the side and come to the front. You can lead with your knee, lead with your foot, etc. And the point was to study the muscles that are firing. Some people noticed that on one side it was much harder than the other. So what you do then is you really examine on the side that works well, what muscles do you feel firing, and compare that to the other side and try and get the same kind of muscle motion. A lot of the times the sides differ because of like old injuries that you've adapted to, or not everybody's body is symmetrical. Actually, nobody's body is symmetrical. So you adjust to that also. So the next exercise was to take that same exercise we were just doing, but compare the difference of keeping your spine upright when you do it versus letting your whole body distort when you swing. And I found keeping my body upright was a lot easier because my balance isn't moving as much. And of course, you can try all the different ways to move your leg while doing that. The next one somebody suggested was to, with one leg, now try pushing with your arm. And doing all the same work, like pushing, pulling, right? The work you had been doing with your other leg, now do it with your arm and see if you can still have that same connection through your body. Can you keep yourself balanced while you do it and all of that? And you can still be trying with your other foot to be on the heel or the toe or the sides or sinking. They were specifically thinking about the sinking down into the ground for this exercise, but you can use it to test everything else too. You don't necessarily want to start with this exercise because it's probably too much to what you're used to, so you'll just fall into old habits. Same with the next exercise. It's too known, so bad habits just come up. You don't end up finding new ways to do things. So with this one, to have both your legs sink into the ground as you push. Get your feed bags as they fall. It's basically the same as before, but with both legs, and trying to make that path. So really trying to sink as you do it. So the reason I had the people in the class try and come up with other exercises is hopefully to help build adaptability, because I find that that's a really important part of training. If you can't adapt, you can't grow. If you can't grow, you can't grow the art or change the art. So if you can't do that, why train? All right, that's it. Sorry, this is posted a little late. I got tied up building a video game. I was making a lot of progress on it, and I didn't really want to stop. So this kind of got pushed to the back burner. All right, see you guys next week.